Hi, this is Congressman Joe Courtney. I represent the 2nd Congressional District in Eastern Connecticut. And today I'm here in Colchester, Connecticut, which is one of the communities that are part of the 2nd Congressional District. And we're here as part of the Veterans History Project, which is a wonderful project that is organized through the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. They collect oral history, interviews, and comments from people who've worn the uniform of this nation. And again, the Library of Congress keeps an archive of all of the interviews because it's such a rich sort of way of people in future generations to understand what went on in terms of people's service many times during conflicts. And today we're here again in Eastern Connecticut with an amazing veteran who I've known for a number of years, and we're going to have a conversation about his service in the U.S. military. So again, for purposes of the Library of Congress, I just have to run through a couple quick questions.
Sure.
Jake Finkelstein, who is going to be, again, today's subject, and again, I think we're going to have a really interesting conversation. But again, Jake, if you could just state your full name.
Jacob Finkelstein,
Your date of birth.
July 12, 1922.
And you live in what town and what state?
Well, I was born in Manhattan,
Yeah.
New York, and state of New York.
And where do you live today?
I live today in Colchester, Connecticut.
Very good. And which war did you serve in the U.S. military?
World War II.
And what branch of service?
The Navy Department,
And what was your highest rank?
Petty Officer First Class, radioman.
Okay, so that, I think we've kind of checked off the boxes here in terms of getting the conversation started. So again, to sort of set the stage in terms of when you joined the Navy, why don't you talk about where you were born and where you grew up and where you went to school?
I was born in Manhattan, New York, and I went to school in Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn. Every time I was a family of, we were a family of 12.
Wow.
So anytime there was a 3 months rent, we moved to get another 3 months rent. There was no housing shortage then. Yeah.
Right.
And
did you go to high school in?
I was in high school in Queens. Yeah, I was Jamaica Vocational High School.
Yeah.
I went to, and I was a senior in high school when I went to the New York World's Fair in 1939 or 40. They was both years,
Yeah.
and they had a tent there with sailors, two sailors, 2 Marines, and 2 soldiers. Not realizing now it was a recruiting stuff.
Right.
And they took us in there to show us around, show us pictures of how they traveled, and well, we were all impressed. Yeah. So we said, we're going to go join the Navy.
Wow.
Of course, the Navy guy took us around and did all explaining. Yeah.
And did you start your service after you graduated from high school, or you just went straight in?
I was still a senior.
Yeah. So you
when
went
I
straight
started.
in. Yeah.
I was just joined, it was training at the Jamaica Library and on evenings, one a week or a month, I can't remember how often I went. And then I got a letter saying, would you like to go active duty for 1 year? And they would, after that I could go back to high school. So my family said, that's okay, you're going to school, one school or another, you're going to school.
Okay, and again, just to describe that a little more detail. So what the Navy was proposing was that you sign up for their own training and education program.
And I'll go to radio school for become a radioman, and upon a radioman, I would be promoted to a petty officer 3rd class. I went in as a apprentice seaman. The salary then was $21 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and where was the school?
In the Roden Heights, Connecticut.
Okay. So I had to do a little research,
Yeah.
because I never heard of Norton Heights, Connecticut, but that's actually in Fairfield County.
It's in Darien, it's part of Darien, I
That's
guess,
right,
yeah.
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 So, and can you describe what the school was like?
The school was actually it was formerly a Civil War soldiers' home, and they moved soldiers out. So we had barracks. One barrack building was long with beds on both sides. We might have had 50 people there. Yeah, and the school itself, we had a typewriter and a key at the desk, and up front was the instructor, like any school. The instructor stayed in the front, and the code he was teaching us was on tape. And we would look at the typewriter had no keys on it, no letters on it,
Mhm.
so we didn't know what keys. So you put your hand on it, and you look at the board on the there. So this is an A, this is a B, this is a C, this is a D, you know, and that's how I learned how to type. Of course,
Interesting.
all the messages coming in got to be typed.
So, and how long was the school
A
day?
4-month school, I think.
And how long was the school day? I mean,
A school day was from 8 o'clock in the morning to about 4 in the afternoon.
sitting in front of a
Yeah,
typewriter?
and then
Wow.
it was open in the evenings if you wanted to do practice more. Yeah.
Right. So it was 4 months.
4-month school,
Yeah.
right, and we marched to class, marched to dinner, like every military place.
Right.
Yeah.
So after the 4 months, did you get
And then-
sort of a
Then they sent me,
promotion?
from
or-
there they shipped me, in the barracks I was in. I was here, and all my friends were on the side, and they split us down the middle. This seat goes to the Atlantic, this side goes to the Pacific. So all my friends went to the Pacific, and I went to the Atlantic. And they sent me down to Norfolk, Virginia. I got on a World War I cruiser, I think it was the Omaha, and I went down to Jamaica or somewhere down there in the Caribbean. The Navy always went in the winter to the Caribbean, somewhere up north.
Smart.
And I caught they put me on Wichita,
Right.
US Wichita. And then we came back north when they got on the Wichita.
So when you were underway, I mean, you were doing radio man duties on board the ship?
Not at that moment.
Yeah.
Then they had enough, so they ordered to put me on practice circuits. All I did was practice,
Okay.
and practice drills anytime, all the time. So that's where I actually learned how to do radio communications.
Right.
Yeah.
So at that point, you were what, probably like 18 or 19 years old?
I was 19.
19.
Yeah, yeah.
And were most of the other sailors on board pretty much
Yeah,
same?
just about everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. 19. Someone said to me, "That's young." I said, "Everybody was that age."
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, so you did a trip down to the Caribbean?
Yeah,
and then,
right. And then I transferred from the Omaha to the Wichita, and that was my duty station on the Wichita.
And that was out of Norfolk also?
Well,
Was that out of Norfolk, Virginia
Yeah,
also?
yeah.
Right,
right.
yeah.
No, it was out of, it went all the way up to the Boston area.
Oh, okay.
Newport, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Newport. And I guess they had a cruiser division up there in Newport. And from there, I stayed on there about 4 months or 5 months. I got transferred to Washington DC. The Washington DC shipyard was my official dressing, but I worked at my work was at the communications building on Constitution Avenue.
Right.
When I got to Washington that night, the sailor at the desk there says, "We don't have quarters for you. We don't have anything. So we have you leave and come back tomorrow morning." So we left. So we hanging around Lafayette Park, I think it was, and we had no money for anything, and nowhere to go, so we slept in the park. Yeah.
Different
So
world.
next morning,
Yeah.
I went back to the shipyard, and then they transferred me to the Navy Department.
Right.
When I got there, Navy Department, they said, you can't wear a uniform here. You gotta wear civilian clothes. And I said, I don't have no civilian clothes with me. So I had no money to buy it. So I got a loan from the Naval Relief Society for $25. And then I bought myself a shirt and I was civilian clothes.
And they found a place for you to live? I mean,
Oh, yeah. One of the sailors said his mother-in-law or something runs a rooming house. So they put us in one room, 5 of us, in one room,
Wow,
big room, I think on G Street somewhere.
right.
Yeah.
So at this point, we're talking 1940 still, or
Oh,
1941?
41. Now we're in 41.
Okay, so it's
I
getting
graduated
closer.
in March 41.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we lived there, and the Navy gave us per diem for day, $2.35 a day. That was per diem for food and lodging and everything.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I don't know what it is today.
so obviously, later in 1941, the war broke out for the U.S. Can you talk about what
before
happened?
that, Roosevelt declared a state of national emergency. Then they said, now we gotta go back to uniform. So then we put on the uniform. And it was funny, the someone's used to come in fairly dressed and beautiful dressed and derby hat, turned out to be a seaman. And someone come in with ragged clothes was a commander.
Right.
You never know who you were talking to. Yeah. So for now we did, and then when Pearl Harbor was bombed, first we stood on watches, 3-day watches in the 4 sections, and you did morning's watch, evening's watch, and night watch, and then you had 3 days off, 3 days of each one, and then you get 3 days off. When Pearl Harbor got bombed, I was on the morning watch, and the chief of the watch said, it's gonna be a slow day today. We don't need as many people here. So he left the married men to go home, and the single guys, we had to stay at work.
Right.
And at noon that day, we got the message coming in that air raid on Pearl, this is no drill. Yeah, came in on our tape. Yeah, we had a duplex circuit with Honolulu and Washington, and that's where you transmit one direction and receive in the other, and you don't have to wait for the other.
Right.
Yeah. So then I remember that message coming in.
Sure, I'll bet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that probably was the first
notice.
Notice that.
It was the first
happening.
notice from Pearl Harbor.
So that probably went right to the White House then, after that.
Well, after that, one of the forms that it was typed up it comes in on a tape,
Mhm.
you know, and dots and dashes on tape, and you read the dots and dashes. But what was I gonna say?
So you typed up the message,
Yeah, right, the message was typed up, and there was 7 copies to it in the booklet. Yeah, and you give it to the chief, and he puts it in picky holes, whoever gets it. So I'm not sure who gets what copy.
Right.
But then they gave me another message to send out, and it was on teletype. I put it on. I had a lot of addresses on it, and basically it said, execute general order number 47 or 49 against Japan, and I don't know what that meant. I mean, protect yourself somehow, I assume.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing,
Yeah. Yeah.
story.
So,
Just,
yeah.
You were right there at history of the
Yeah, I was
making,
right there when it was
literally.
all happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And I imagine I knew before the president knew.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so what was the rest of the day like? I mean, was the city, did Washington react? You know, the city of Washington during the day?
I got, after that, I got my 3 days off. I was on my 3 days off.
Yeah,
So, one of the other sailors with me lived in Atlantic City. So he said, let's go to Atlantic City, stay at my house. So we went there. And during that night, we went out and everybody was buying us drinks. Next thing you know, we're drunk. and we're in a fight somewheres. And Shore Patrol comes up, throws us in, and then they put us in the jail in Atlantic City. In the morning when we wake up, I'm in one cell and the other fellow there is in another cell. I see a policeman go by and says, how did I get a cup of coffee here? He said, you want a cup of coffee? Go out and buy it. The gate was never closed. The jail.
oh, the jail.
Yeah, they just go there to sleep it off. Yeah. So we went out and then we went to his house and then we did just the normal things.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you got back to Washington and then, you know, obviously,
Yeah. Well, everything was busier then.
right,
Much busier.
right, because
Yeah.
Roosevelt declared
Yeah.
war.
But we
almost
knew,
immediately.
we knew nothing of what damage they did in Pearl Harbor.
Right,
We had no idea, because everything after that was coded.
right,
The first message was clear, and after that, everything was coded. So, when the things were happening, ships getting sunk and they were invading other things, I says, where's the Navy? Where's the Navy? Nobody knew.
right.
Yeah, yeah. There was no Navy.
That was a tough moment, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So were you in Washington for much longer after Pearl Harbor, or did you get?
Well, for maybe another year or half year, and then I was transferred to the transmitter station, Arlington, Virginia. And there I stayed for maybe a year or so, yeah. And then they sent me, then I went out to sea, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So in Arlington, you know, what went on at the Arlington facility?
In Arlington, Virginia,
Yeah,
we just served transmitters for
okay,
whoever, we kept them up, changed frequencies, serviced them, whatever they needed.
right,
Yeah, that's what our job was, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So then you went off to sea, you said? Yeah,
Yeah, well, the captain of the radio station there said he has to transfer some people out, and says to me, I'm allowed to keep some of my senior people, would you like to stay? And I says, like a dopey kid, I joined the Navy to go to sea. So he said, go ahead, you're gonna go. So then they transferred me, I think to the Wichita, not to the Wichita, to the USS Montauk.
okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of ship was that?
That was the landing craft,
Okay,
yeah, yeah. So that one I served on, went to Okinawa on, yeah, yeah.
so that was like 1944?
44,
Right?
yeah,
And,
yeah. Yeah.
can you talk about that, what it was like, you know?
On the ship,
Yeah,
it was just normal radio duties. We
right,
stand watches, you know, you get 8 on, 8 off, or whatever they needed, yeah. We had enough radio in then.
so how big is a landing craft?
This is a full-size ship.
Yeah, right.
This was maybe 300-400 feet, yeah, it was big. It was something converted. The back of the ship fall down into the water, and we were able to drive off alligators and nothing. And on top of the deck, we had LSVPs for troops to go in.
Right, so you had both troops and,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
carried troops,
equipment.
yeah. And we also carried prisoners of war, Japanese prisoners we had on the ship, yeah.
so when the Montauk, you know, arrived at Okinawa,
Yeah,
I mean, then it's first, it
Oh.
discharged all the,
the
got everybody off.
when we went into Okinawa, it was April 1st, you know, the invasion. We went in like in 2 sections. two columns. My ship, the Montauk, was leading about 300 ships to one, and the other one was leading the other ships. There was 1,100 ships there. And,
Amazing.
so I guess they didn't know which side of Okinawa you're gonna go into. And we had to leave the front of the thing and go into the back of the column, because we had to enjoy the main invasion, because we had the headquarters of the 10th Army on our ship.
Okay.
Yeah, so they had to be there. Yeah.
So when those ships were, arriving at Okinawa, I mean, were the Japanese army, were they firing
Yeah.
shells? I mean, was there?
Oh, I didn't see a shell fired.
Okay.
Oh, I did see a shell. I'm sorry.
Right.
There was a battleships, I remember, Mississippi or somewhere it was, well, and fired 3 rounds into the hills. Yeah, this is while the invasion was on.
Right.
And you could actually see the shell in the air, going so big,
Right.
yeah.
But
That
your
was
ship,
16
but your
years.
ship was not getting, attacked or.
Well, it was,
getting
we were
shot.
under, we had to make smoke to hide.
Right.
We made smoke to hide, and we fired off our 20 millimeter guns, our 40 millimeter guns, and our 5-inch gun. When we first called general quarters and they start firing, I hear the 5-inch gun. I can't see nothing. I'm in the radio room, it's all locked up.
Right.
I hear a 5-inch gun go off, and then I hear the 40 millimeters go off, and then I hear the 20 millimeters go off. I said, whoa, they must be over us. 20 millimeters just like a machine gun. Yeah. So, but nothing ever happened to us, except one day, I hear boom, boom, boom on the door to the radio shack, and I don't know what it was. It was spent 20 millimeter shells from some other ship
Wow.
that hit us.
So when you're in the radio room,
Yeah.
are you talking or communicating with the other U.S.
No,
ships? or-
no. What we did, if they did any communications, they did it at the bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, we did nothing in that. We just sat there. Reporters came into the radio room with us that were on the ship, and they just listened. We just waited, but we didn't do any communications. You know, everything we did what we had what we call a Fox circuit, and that was you just copy. Comes on automatic, and you got to be there and copy. You don't talk to anybody.
I see.
Yeah.
So you're just
get
receiving.
all the messages come
Right.
in that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And those messages were coming from the U.S. Navy. I mean, from your
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the leadership.
all for
Got
US
it.
Navy,
Okay.
yeah.
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 Right. So you said that you also transported Japanese prisoners.
Yeah.
And they
I
were
think-
captured on the island.
I think we captured them in Guam, or
Oh,
they
okay.
picked them up in Guam.
Got it.
And we brought, of course, we had troop quarters. So the Japanese soldiers, when the vehicles were off the vehicle deck down below,
Right.
they put a cage up there, and they put cots up, and the Japanese soldiers, prisoners, lived on the cots, and we had soldiers aboard to guard them. Yeah, and the only thing they had for clothes on was a pair of undershorts. Yeah, that's it, and maybe slippers. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah, and
So
we ate the same thing that what they ate.
Yeah.
That's part of the Geneva Convention. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And was the ship taking them someplace, or were you just holding them?
Oh
there
no,
on
we
board?
were taking them to Hawaii.
Okay.
We took them to Hawaii and then we let them off. But we had officers in staterooms where the Japanese officers were prisoners.
Right.
They were treated like our officers. They had their own servicemen serving them, and they even put out chairs on the deck so they could get sun.
Wow. Okay.
And we treated them really badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you also served on some other ships, according to my notes here. The Reina Mercedes.
The
and,
Reina Mercedes was after the war.
Okay.
I went home for 60 days leave, because I had no leave all those years. Yeah. And then after that, I got transferred to Annapolis, Maryland, at the big transmitter station.
Okay, so then let's stop for a second and go back to the war for a minute
Yeah.
then. So, were you in the Pacific when the Japanese surrendered?
Yes, yeah, yeah, we were at sea when the
Right.
Japanese surrendered, yeah. When they threw the bomb,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how close to Japan were you when that happened at the
Oh.
end there? Did you get
I
that
think
close?
near Hawaii.
Okay, it was more
Yeah,
on the,
yeah.
a little
We used to
further east.
Do a lot of runs between Hawaii and San Francisco.
Got it,
Mayor Island and Hawaii, back and forth.
right.
Like one weekend in San Francisco, next weekend in Hawaii. Yeah, hard job.
So, I mean, you were there when, Pearl Harbor, happened, obviously, and
Yeah.
now you were there when Japan surrendered on board the ship.
Yeah.
So what was it like on board
Well,
the ship?
we were all happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, very happy,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. We also, one time when we were going down to Guadalcanal, we crossed the international date line and the Equator at the same time. And we went through the into the initiation of being a shellback. And
Yep,
went through the whole thing.
ceremony.
So
Yeah.
now I'm a shellback. Yeah, yeah. No
pretty
more
special.
polylog.
Right,
Yeah.
got it. So then you really got around in the Pacific
Oh,
there. So,
we got
yeah,
all around to
yeah,
all of them.
Right,
I've been to all the islands, I think.
yeah.
Marshalls, the Gilberts, the Sullivans, the Sullivans.
Yeah, right.
The Marianas
Yeah.
and
Guam, obviously you mentioned.
Guam, and Carolina Islands, yeah. But we never stopped at New Zealand or Australia,
Yeah, right.
yeah, never.
Well, still, I mean, all those Pacific Island nations now, I mean, they're back on the front pages,
Oh.
in the news, because of, what's going on with China,
Yeah,
what's going on
Right.
in South Pacific,
Yeah.
so, but, that was a big part of, right, the war was in the Pacific, and sometimes I
Yeah.
think people today don't,
yeah.
know that much about it, so
No.
that's pretty,
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
important part of
Yeah.
history.
When we left, when my 60 days was up and I had to go to Annapolis, that's, Rena Mercedes was the
Okay.
receiving ship.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and where did you spend the 60 days when you had the?
Home,
You went home?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
to New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
And how long had it been since you'd seen
and my
your parents?
mother didn't have enough meat points to feed me. And I picked up my own, some, but every day I would have 2 eggs for breakfast, 2 eggs for lunch, 2 eggs for supper. I was so happy to get back in the Navy.
Oh, sure, yeah, right. So did you have to take the train across the US to get to New York City? or-
Yeah, I took the train,
Right,
sitting up all 5 days,
yeah,
5 days, sitting up, and some were coal miners, and I had a white uniform on, black. And it didn't change for the 5 days. Yeah,
and was it packed with soldiers and sailors?
Yeah.
Going home?
we'll go home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you did 60 days in New York City, roughly?
Oh,
that's-
that was, 60
yeah.
days was good,
Yeah,
yeah,
nice,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2
Okay.
months off, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And how long had it been since you had seen your parents?
What?
So when you got home, how long it had been since you had seen your parents? I mean, was
Oh.
it like,
I already had a mother,
yeah.
yeah. About 2 years, I
Wow.
guess, yeah,
that must have been pretty,
About 2
pretty
years.
special.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so then you went down to the Rena Mercedes.
Yeah, yeah, and they transferred us to a high-power radio station at Annapolis,
Okay,
and that's where most of the Navy communications goes through those transmitters. And we were there to service the transmitters and change frequencies, whatever the Navy called for. Yeah,
so the Mercedes was just sort of tied up there?
just a receiving ship,
Got it,
yeah.
okay.
I slept on it one night, and it was built, I don't know, 1800 somewhere.
Yeah, wow,
Some from the Spanish-American War.
okay, yeah, 1890s,
Yeah.
so,
When I went back to Annapolis once, I asked where was the Marine, where's where the moisture is, and they said, doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, they took,
Nice.
but he said the bell exists in the museum. You can
Okay.
go see the bell.
nice.
Yeah.
So you were there at Annapolis for, after the war for
Yeah,
some time?
for maybe a year.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it says then you served on the USS Merrimack and you traveled, was that during the war or was that after the war?
Merrimack was after the war.
Right, and
Yeah,
that was after
yeah,
Annapolis?
after Annapolis.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so talk about that.
yeah. They put me on the oil tanker. Oh, I went to San Pedro to pick it up, this oil tanker. I remember walking down the street with my hammock and everything on me. Every Navy, you carried a hammock and your mattress and your pillows and your
Wow.
blankets, you carried it all with you, yeah. And once I got on there, it was a small crew, and we were short on radio men. Yeah, yeah. So our radio watches were 4 on, 4 off, around the clock. So that's what we stood. Yeah.
And tell me where San Pedro is, I don't, where is
Famous
that?
Acres in California.
California, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, and then, but you.
It's the port of Los Angeles.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
So then, did you head into you headed west? Into,
West, yeah, we headed west, and we went through. We went to the Saudi Arabia with it. Yeah.
So you went
Before we went
far
there, we
west.
stopped at Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some leave at Singapore.
Yeah.
And then we went to Saudi Arabia. Come out of Saudi Arabia, we went to, I think we took it to Japan,
Okay,
a load of oil. Then we go back from Japan to Saudi Arabia, and then we went through the Suez Canal and Mediterranean, and we took the oil to Norfolk, Virginia. By the time we got to Norfolk, Virginia, we were burning the cargo. It the ship didn't carry enough fuel.
right.
Yeah.
So you went around the world?
I went
Yeah.
through both canals on that ship.
Yeah.
And then from there, from Norfolk, we went around through the Panama Canal, back to the Pacific.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's,
Yeah.
Captain Cook.
yeah.
So, so now you discharged out of the Navy?
Yeah, well, yeah.
What year was that? 47, was it? Or-
47.
Yeah,
Before that, I asked the Navy to send me to school. They come out with a ET thing, and there was a 9-month school for ETs. And the commanding officer of the radio station said, "You're well qualified for that, you know." But somebody in Washington said, "You got too much time on shore, so you're going to sea." That's when they sent me on the oil tanker.
okay,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So, but you discharged from active duty in?
Yeah,
in
when I
47,
got to the, San Diego, or, not San Diego, we were around the San Francisco area. The captain, says to me, "Your enlistment's expired, are you gonna re-enlist?" He says, "I gotta know because we're going on another cruise," and he says, "We won't be back in time for your enlistment. We can't carry you if it's expired." So he says, "If you're not gonna re-enlist," he says, "I could let you go convenience of the government 3 months early." Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's what you did?
So that's what did. I said, "I'm not gonna re-enlist." Because the GI Bill was out, I said, I could go to school now if I want, yeah. Before the Navy wouldn't let me go to school.
Right.
Yeah,
So did you use the GI Bill?
for taking courses, yeah, but I never got a degree,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, and now you stayed involved with the Navy though after you discharged,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, I worked for the Army, at the Army base for a short time.
Yeah.
And then, and the Army had a lot of boats, yeah.
Right.
And then when the Navy took it over, they wanted me. So they say, you're now part of the Navy. So I worked for them, yeah.
But that was as a civilian or as a reserve?
That was civilian work,
Right,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
okay. All
And
right,
then from there, I went to the Naval Electronic System Engineering Center. And, because I was qualified as a electronic technician engineer,
right.
yeah. And there I stayed until, in New York, until, they needed somebody, they wanted to establish an office at the submarine base in Groton.
Okay,
Yeah, so they said, you're gonna establish the office there. So I went with another man, the two of us, we opened up an office at the submarine base.
what
Yeah.
year was that roughly? What was it, was that the fifties or was that?
I can't think,
Okay, that's
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
okay, but,
but, it was called the NEO, Naval Electronic Engineering Office, yeah,
okay.
yeah. And so
So that's how you
everything-
ended, that's how you ended up in eastern Connecticut?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
that's why I moved to Connecticut.
Yeah.
They should be up here, yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
and then obviously you got married and had a family here.
Oh,
right?
yeah. After I got out, in 1955, I got married, yeah, yeah. We had a family, I had 4 children. I was married for 68 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
impressive. And I've met your
Yeah,
wife.
you
and
knew
she
my
was-
wife.
Yeah, she was
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
And you have 4 children, how many grandchildren?
I got 5 grandchildren, 2
All
great-grandchildren.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
I got
impressive.
one of each here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we sign off, I just, behind us here, we've obviously got some memorabilia.
Yeah, right.
And you've got a very impressive
Yeah.
shadow box
Yeah.
with some of the medals that are
I
here.
put it in the box, yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
nice, and a great picture of you.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
there I had, that was picture taken, I had 4 years already in there, when that one was up. This one here, this is from all from the radio stations. This was the house I lived in Queens
Yeah,
when I joined,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
So just for the record, I mean, I have the list of the medals here, which I'm just gonna read off, again, as part of the
Yeah.
production. So there's the American Campaign Medal,
Yeah,
the Navy Good Conduct Medal,
right,
the World War II Victory Medal,
yeah,
the American Defense Service Medal,
right,
the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal,
right.
the Navy Occupation Service Medal, and the Combat Action.
Combat page.
And you also got your dog tags there.
Yeah.
Right down there.
That's that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
They'll
that's-
look at them all, so I forget what they were all.
no, that's a really impressive.
Yeah. And this one has fleet, because I was on the ship, I was out at sea,
Right.
and, on the land, yeah. And my dog tag,
Yeah,
there was 2 of them, yeah.
well, it's nice you have that,
Well,
it's for your family. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah. I
and,
promised my grandson he would have it. And the little pins on top,
Yeah.
those are all from civil service, they're, up to my 40-year-old pin,
Right,
yeah.
doing work for the
I got
Navy, yeah.
20 or 35,
Yeah.
every 5 years or so they give. Pen.
Well, again, this has been really a pleasure to
Oh.
talk to you about this. I mean,
Yeah.
is there any other, before we turn off the cameras here, was there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to close with, or?
Not that I could think of, no,
Okay,
yeah.
well, again, it's, your life story is really, very
Yeah.
impressive
Yeah.
and inspiring. I'm glad we, had the opportunity.
One of the reasons I didn't re-enlist
Yeah,
was, the captain on the ship said, I'm expecting a message, did it come in yet? I said, no, I didn't get it. And then he's waiting, he said, I gotta have that message, did it come in yet? I said, I didn't get it. And he said, is there a chance you missed it? I says, I don't miss messages, I says, no, I didn't miss it. So, I think he was thinking of court-martialing me. And then finally, he sent the message out, another one, he had me send this message out, and it was all coded, so I didn't know what it said. But he wanted to know what happened to his message. Well, it was put on a different, since we're working 4 on, 4 off, it was put on the wrong schedule,
Okay,
sent. That's why I never got it. Yeah, not that I missed it,
right,
just never got it. So I was a little annoyed that he didn't trust me.
right.
Yeah.
No, you definitely earned their trust, that's for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
with all you did.
Yeah.
And again, thank you for doing this today. And
Yeah, thank you.
again, I think it's going to be a very valuable part of
Well,
the archive
Yeah.
at the Library of Congress, and it's a great honor
Yeah.
to join you for it.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah.